Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the February 13th Board of Selectmen meeting. Would you join us, rise the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Public comment, we didn't have any. Approval of the warrants. Jason, do you have those?
Yes.
Very good.
I'll make a motion to approve payroll warrant 2333 in the amount of $177,451.10.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? None? All in favor? 4 in favor, 1 absent. Bill warrant.
I'll make a motion to approve bill warrant 2333 in the amount of $731,737.52, which breaks down to the town, $213,921.06, water and sewer, $117,170.59, payroll withholding, $28,300.15, light bills, $115,292.89. Grants and revolving, $161,465.83. And Essex tax assessment, $95,587.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? None? All in favor? 4 in favor, 1 absent. Approval of the Board of Selectmen meeting minutes, December 19th, 2022.
I'll make a motion to approve the Board of Selectmen meeting minutes for December 19th, 2022.
I'll second it with one correction on the second page, I think. Under item 5, the public hearing, it should say Town Clerk Cuniff on those 2 middle sentences. Do you see where it just says Town Cuniff instead of Town Clerk Cuniff? That's if that's okay with everybody. She's referred to as Town Clerk Cuniff all the way above, and then they just left off the word clerk.
Okay. Everybody see that? Okay, there's a motion and a second. There's a second?
Yes, second, yes, with those changes, with those 2 little tiny edits.
Discussion? None, all in favor? 4 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you. Appointments of the board. Appoint Mead, Kellerman, and Costa as town council through June 30th, 2023. Rebecca, you want to, just an explanation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is just a formality. We typically appoint our town council every June as we go through, July 1st, as we go through all the appointment lists. And it was noted that we had not appointed our new legal counsel until the end of the fiscal year. So we're just appointing them until the end of the fiscal year, being June 30th, 2023.
Any questions for Rebecca? None.
No, I'll make a motion to appoint Mead, Tellerman, and Costa as town council effective immediately through June 30th, 2023.
Second that.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? None, all in favor? 4 in favor, 1 absent. Discussion and possible vote. Approval of the Groveland Youth Baseball League use of Washington Park for the 2023 season. And we have Mark remotely. Mark, can you hear us okay?
I can hear you great. Thank you very much. Can you hear me all right?
Mark, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, can you turn it up a little bit?
Can you hear me now?
Oh,
Feedback.
yeah, tweak that a little bit.
Okay.
Mark, you
How's that?
okay with that? You still there, Mark?
I am here.
Okay. Okay, you've applied for the permit for the baseball league for Washington Park.
That's correct.
Okay.
Uh,
Go ahead.
So this year, we're actually going to be approaching some of our best registration numbers since before COVID. We're approximately going to be reaching about 140 to 150 kids from kindergarten through sixth grade from Groveland. So we're really excited about our numbers starting to get back up there since some of the COVID years. So our permit request is the same as it's been since I've started with T-ball. March through September at Washington Park for our spring season, our summer baseball program, and then our in-town Groveland baseball kid-only fall practices and clinics that we run through both fields at Washington Park. The last time we had approximately this number of kids, we're approaching possibly using another field in town, such as Bagnell. With about this many kids, the utilization of Washington Park will be fairly full for our season, and we're really excited for the upcoming baseball season this year.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mark?
I have one.
Yes, go ahead.
Hey, Mark, your permit says you want it until 7 PM, but is that just the starting time of the last game?
Typically, the form on the website, that was the latest that I could select on the website.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So I couldn't select beyond that. Typically, all our games in the evening start at 5:45 p.m.
Okay.
And they run approximately 2.5 hours. We're usually out of the ballpark by 9 p.m.
9 PM, yeah.
And then the light bill for the lights at Washington Park goes directly to Groveland Baseball for the use of the lights there.
Well, thank you for all that you do to keep the park nice. So is it okay for us to leave the form like it is? Even though no one else can use the park? Okay. That was all.
Yeah, and we have that.
Anybody else got a question?
in the
Yes,
past.
Dan, go ahead.
Just comment, Mark, thanks a lot for all you do, and GBL is one of the best baseball programs anywhere, and this town's lucky to have you, so I appreciate that, and you know, my son used to play down there, and some of the best memories in town were at Washington Park, so really appreciate it for what you do. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, anybody else? Motion?
To move favorable on the permit as applied for?
Second that.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? None, all in favor? 4 in favor, 1 absent. Mark, thank you for participating.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much for all your support for our program. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
A discussion concerning the open space plan for 2023 and 2024. Mike Dempsey.
So I want to just thank you for letting me share with you tonight some of the plans that the Conservation Commission has for the next couple of years regarding our town's open space. And got some information to share with you and also let you know how you can help us. So, next slide. So in the past 27 years, since when town originally purchased VZ Park, we've primarily focused on purchasing large properties, VZ Park, Meadow Pond, and then in 2013, where we were able to purchase the former Angelini property and the former Mattingly property. So the focus, like I say, has been on large properties. Next one. But during that time, we also did do some smaller acquisitions, adding to Meadow Pond in a couple of cases, adding some land at Town Forest through a land exchange, another donation for Town Forest up on Wood Street, and then a small parcel next to VZ Park in 2019 that was voted. So we have done, things beyond the large purchases. Most people remember the large purchases. They don't necessarily remember the smaller things that we've been able to accomplish. Next. So currently, we have 263 acres of parcels under the care of the Conservation Commission, which ends up being about 6% of the total land mass of Groveland. The town owns other properties, including things like parks, schools, cemeteries, the water department, ends up being about 46.5 acres, which is about 0.8%. And then the big one is the state. So they've got 3 wildlife management areas, and they total 1,586 acres, which is about 26.3% of the land mass. So our total open space ends up being about 33%, about a third of Groveland's 6,000 plus acres is open space, mostly, again, controlled by the state. And the state areas are primarily, they are available for passive recreation, but the biggest reason that they're there is for hunting. So next. So our open space and recreation plan was approved in 2019, and it enabled us to qualify for several different types of future grants related to the state. And thanks to our own Rebecca, we were able to get that approved in 2019, next page. So we've got that official letter from the state saying that they agree with our plan and that they're willing to fund us in the future. So that's a good thing. So in looking at the plan, we really wanted to see where the commission's future work here for the next couple of years can fit into the open space plan. So goal number 3 specifically says preserve Groveland's natural resources, including rare wildlife and core habitat, as well as open space, scenic vistas, farms, trails, greenways, wildlife corridors, and land that enhances and buffers existing conservation land. So we kind of took this as our charge. Some of the objectives we are incorporating into what we want to do in the next few years, like explore ways in which land can be acquired and protected without direct purchase from the town, identify, when possible, land comes up that abuts existing protected open space, and then connect some of our larger parcels and smaller parcels with some kind of network of trails. The next page, it's certainly difficult to see, and you really have to blow it up to really see where these are. But the ones that you can see in light purple were all the parcels that were identified back in 2018, 2019 as action parcels that are potentially, they're all mostly private-owned land that could come up for sale at one time or another. Many of them don't fit into categories like abutting some of the land that we already own, but some of them do, and those are probably the ones that we would focus on most, especially, for instance, near Town Forest, there's a few areas up there that would help us with some connections to trails. So, the question is, why do we need more open space? You know, currently, we have, as I say, a third of our town is already protected open space. So what do we need? So as I mentioned with some of the goals, filling in parcels around Johnson's Pond. So right now, the town and Conservation Commission control about a third of the parcels around the pond. It would be great to have a trail that went around the whole pond and enabled you to really enjoy that area. So that's one of the things we're thinking about. Another one is creating contiguous hunting areas. So right now, the entire state wildlife areas are huntable, but as far as town properties are concerned, the one that we've got huntable is the Meadow Pond Reservation. So it's important to kind of, if any properties come up that abut that we, include those in that area and that they might add to the hunting area over there. Another example is lots or easements along the potential Crosstown Trail. The Crosstown Trail was a CBA project that we voted a couple of years ago. It goes from, it's going to go from Main Street down by the Pawtucket Regional High School up to the Crane Pond Reservation, which is one of the state areas. So there are some pieces that are missing, probably could be fixed with easements or other potential ways of dealing with that. And then another area is connections to Center Street Greenway. So when I'm saying the Center Street Greenway, I'm referring to the 3 conservation cared sites, parcels in the back, the former Mattingly and the former 2 Angelini parcels in the back, not anything in the front. So the question is, how can we protect it? So here's some tools. Obviously, we can buy it, but are there other ways to protect some of these lands? Donations. Believe it or not, we have many people, especially the smaller parcels, who want to donate their their land to the town. Another one is third-party purchases. So working with land trusts like Essex County Greenbelt, if they're interested in, if we can get them interested in purchasing some of these parcels, that's a good thing. And then, of course, we've got CPA funds. Another thing is easements, where we don't actually purchase the property, but we may just purchase the right to put a trail on it, or have a portion of their property used by the public. And then conservation restrictions, similar to easements. Some people, they may not actually want to sell their parcel, but they're willing to put a conservation restriction on the whole parcel so that it wouldn't be buildable or used for other things other than letting the town use it. So the last thing is, how can the selectmen help with some of these goals that we want to do? So we need the selectmen to approve parcel donations. We really can't accept any donations. The commission can accept it, but it's up to the town and the selectmen to vote to officially approve any donations. As I mentioned, we can work with land trusts when Essex County Greenbelt comes in and they're looking to talk about a parcel that they're interested in. Another one is supporting CPA projects. Authorizing the easements and conservation restrictions. Again, the commission can decide to do this, but it's ultimately up to the selectmen to approve it and authorize those. And then finally, we get these things called land releases for 61A property, which is agricultural land. So we have quite a bit of acres of parcels. Many of those light purple parcels on the map are in 61A. They're protected agricultural land, but sooner or later, sometimes people move on and they're willing to not have a agricultural restriction on it. They're gonna sell it, and it comes up to the town to release that. So it's important for all of us to look at those very carefully before we just release them and say, you know, are we interested in any of this parcel, maybe only part of the parcel, and not just approve it without really thinking about how it could fit in. So those are my outline here of the plan that the commission wants to do. So I'll take any questions or comments that you might have.
Anybody got any questions for Mike? Jason, go ahead.
Have you followed up at all with the state of federal legislation and all the talk they've been going through about releasing the lands owned by the state and encouraging releasing lands that the town owns for housing development to help drive down the housing costs?
No. I don't know how that will fit in, especially with the state, you know, because it's not really like surplus land. They've got it designated as wildlife management areas. So I'm not sure that's what they're referring to, but certainly I'll look into what you're talking about.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Dan?
Yeah, if you buy up more land, what effect does that have, if any, on the tax revenue?
Well, when we purchase an open space parcel, it always affects our taxes. There's no question about that. That's why I mentioned that there's other ways to take advantage of open space, like easements, conservation restrictions, that don't affect our tax rate. So that's something always to look at. Is there an alternative, especially smaller parcels? It's a lot easier to, you know, get an easement on a 1 acre parcel versus getting an easement on a 50 acre parcel, right? Again, most of the parcels I think that we would be interested in, they're smaller, you know, the taxes are a lot less than a larger parcel. Again, that it wouldn't affect the tax rate in a huge amount. But I think it's important to remember that our citizens like open space. They consistently have voted to purchase open space regardless of the tax impact. And so, you know, it's really part of our character of being a semi-rural suburb. You know, I remember someone at town meeting quite a while ago saying we don't want Groveland to become Saugus. So that's always the idea, I think, is to, but also not, of course, impacting our taxes as much as we would if we just go out and purchase a 100-acre parcel and that gets taken off the books.
And how much funds are available in the CPA for the acquisitions of either
Yes.
deeds for the land or easements?
Well, right now, in CPA, we have about, it's over $900,000 in open space designated CPA funds. So there's quite a bit of money there. All of that money obviously doesn't need to be used for purchases. It's used for trail development and any other open space related costs. But there is money there, especially if we were purchasing small parcels or buying a conservation restriction or easement. Those all can come out of CPA open space funds.
Are there any parcels that are, I guess, on the table now?
Yes, well, one parcel, I was just contacted about a month ago by someone that owns about a 1-acre parcel on Johnson's Pond. And it's really not a buildable lot. And so they're interested in donating it. But I told this person that I really wanted to talk to your board to really fill you in about what our whole plan is before we come and talk about the donation.
That's all. Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? Kathy?
Do you have a figure for how much land is still available, like for development in the town, roughly? How many acres?
No, not really. I mean, some of it is, if you look on that map, you know, you can't really see it projected up there, but if you look closely, you can find, you know, like Rebecca knows some of these larger parcels that someday will come up to a developer showing up and saying, you know, we want to build X houses here. Mostly it's the larger properties. They're not a huge amount, but they're still out there.
So, as I understand it, the parcel that is Cedardale Groveland is on the market. Do you know how many acres that is?
The person who owns Cedardale has about 60 acres of property that is controlled by that person. Not all of it is part of Cedardale, but, you know, contiguous property, there's
contiguous.
60 acres there.
So it's a sizable parcel.
Yes, yes.
Okay, is that at all in your planning book, connected to anything?
Not really on what I'm talking about tonight. You know, it's not really near any of our other properties. Certainly, would be a beautiful site to own, but I think from a conservation point of view, it would be a little hard to justify just buying it for open space. So, you know, I was talking a little bit about Rebecca, with Rebecca about this earlier and thinking about, you know, it's already a recreation site. You know, maybe if we can talk to whoever's interested in either buying it or the person selling it, are they willing to work with the town to, you know, further develop it as a private recreation area? Might be one option.
So just the portion of it that's currently occupied for recreation, you talking about that part?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
Would it be too much trouble to go back to the first slide?
The one with the parcels, I think he probably wants. Which one? With the one with the purple parcel thing. Is that it?
Just a little.
There we go. We're in business.
All right, all right, what was the next slide? Go back to the other one. Mike,
Yes,
looking at that, 363 acres of protected open space, and you listed, one of those slides, you listed Meadow Pond, Johnson's Pond. The Strawberry Fields.
yes.
Can you list the properties, do you know off the top of your head, the properties that can be used for hunting, fishing, trapping, snowmobiling, or other recreational vehicles, like a dirt bike?
Okay. So as far as hunting is concerned, the the only town-owned parcel that can be used for hunting is Meadow Pond Reservation. So that's about 80 acres or so of land off of Uptack Road. State ones are the three, Parker River Wildlife Management, Crane Pond Wildlife Management, and Upper Parker River Wildlife Management areas. As far as ATVs, snowmobiles, that type of thing, I think only the state properties you're allowed to do that, and I think it requires a permit to do that. None of the, all of the town-owned, the large town-owned properties like Town Forest, Meadow Pond, Center Street Greenway, and VZ Park all have built into their conservation restrictions that you can't use ATVs on those.
Okay. So, Meadow Pond is basically the only one for hunting.
Yes.
But they all would probably be available for trapping and, but nothing for snowmobiles, basically, other than
Right.
the state property.
Right, right.
Uh,
And the state properties are extensive, you know, if you go out to Crane Pond, the place is huge.
and Crane Pond seems to be shrinking over the years. All right, that's all I got. Thank
Okay.
you. Thanks for the presentation.
Sure.
Anybody else got any questions for Mike before he leaves? You got something?
I don't know, just be nice if there was somewhere in town to ride dirt bikes or snowmobiles.
Oh, snowmobiles.
Dirt bikes, ding, 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 ding. When I was a kid, I used to go to sand pits and a lot of fun. Teenagers need something to do besides, study.
Well, down in Strawberry Fields, that, years ago, that was always, you could always go through there with a snowmobile. It was, maybe a dirt bike, getting a dirt bike, but, I think there should be some places where they should be able to use that. And I brought that up, if you remember.
Yes.
When the town purchased, the Strawberry Fields. And actually, probably when we put the conservation restriction on it.
Yeah.
And I said at the time that when they were taking sand and gravel out of there, that was part of the agreement that they could finish it up. And I said at the time, how do you explain to a kid that these 10-wheel dump trucks can come in and out of there, but yet this kid can't ride his bicycle through there?
Right.
And I asked the guy from the Greenbelt.
Yeah.
And he said, you can't explain it. Well, absolutely. It doesn't make sense, Mike.
Yes, yes.
You agree?
I agree. Unfortunately, it's not easy to change, you know. I'll make a note, you know, to talk to them and see what it would take to change some of that. I don't know.
That's pretty well open now from Washington Street right through to Center Street. And right now, they've got construction equipment on there for the, working with the sewerage. I just don't see what harm it is for some kid to go through there on a bicycle or somebody to ride a snowmobile through there. It's done, snowmobile done in the wintertime when there's snow on the bit.
Yes, right. Those certainly are less invasive to the property than, say, an ATV, you know, a motorized vehicle driving through. They tend to really make a mess on some of the trails, but a regular manual bicycle or a snowmobile might be possible.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Anybody else? Thanks, Mike, for the presentation.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, appoint temporary alternate member to the planning board. Rebecca, you had some information on this, and somebody wasn't able to go?
Yes, we have two members on the planning board that are unable to make the planning board meeting that is occurring on Tuesday, the 21st, and we are looking for an appointment, or a temporary appointment as an alternate to the board so that they may vote to continue the matter. I know Jason has attended a few of their meetings. I think there's an overlap with your role over on the ZBA, so I don't know if it makes sense and you would like to volunteer, but that is just an option.
He just shook his head yes.
Nodded. I think he said, yeah.
A motion.
Make a motion to appoint Jason, temporary alternate member to the planning board, effective as of this date, February 13th, 2023.
Second?
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? None. All in favor? 3 in favor, 1 abstain, 1 absent. Motion passes. Next, on the agenda, KP Law Whittier School Representation Form, vote to sign. And we have the paperwork with it. You want to explain that for everybody, that we need to sign off on it?
Of course, so KP Law is looking to represent Whittier Regional Vocational Tech School, and they have asked all of the municipalities in which they represent to sign off on a disclosure form. I know that we have moved in a little bit of a different direction in terms of town council, but we still do have some outstanding matters with KP that they are looking into, and due to that fact, they have asked us to also sign off and on their disclosure form for their representation of Whittier.
Question for Rebecca?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, then.
Is this for an ongoing contract? I mean,
So there's no contract that we have with KP Law.
why do they need our approval?
I kind of asked the same question, but again, their answer to me was that because they had some continuing matters that were outstanding with the town, they would prefer that we sign off so that there's no issues in their representation of Whittier, or if anyone were to call it into question.
I'd like more info on what conflicts they're worried about, but, I mean, we switched law firms because it saves us a lot of money. Half. So maybe Whittier ought to be shopping, try to save some money too. So, do we pay any of the Whittier bill? The taxpayers do. Right?
Yeah.
I do. So, what are they worried about? I want them to clarify the conflicts they're worried about, if any.
So the memo included in your packet has some details in regards to the specifics that they're addressing with Whittier. They go through and they list multiple representation disclosure. They then go on to talk about the determination, specifically saying it is our belief that our position as town council for the town of Groveland and our potential work for the school district as special counsel for this purposes and under the conditions described in this letter does not create a concurrent conflict of interest and will not affect the exercise of our independent professional judgment on behalf of either Groveland or the district.
Then what if we don't?
It's entirely up to the board.
Well, if reading the last paragraph on page 1, under the above reference, ethical rules, an attorney owes a duty of loyalty to each client. Moreover, an attorney cannot represent one client where such representation may materially limit their ability to represent another. And moving on, it says, KP Law serves as the city attorney for the city of Amesbury, city solicitor for the city of Newburyport, special counsel for the city of Havel, town council for the towns of Georgetown, Salisbury, West Newbury, and special and/or labor counsel for the towns of Merrimack, Ipswich, and Rowley. We're seeking consent of all these cities and towns of both Georgetown to our work with the school district. May reference I have, the copy of these. I would say that if we, now all the towns have to agree on the same attorney. And if the others have KP Law, then representing Whittier, so perhaps we should continue with it. Comments?
Yeah, I got one.
Go ahead.
I mean, I think this is just a formality, we're just looking to sign off that, yeah, we were notified that they're gonna be representing, Whittier Tech. That's what it comes down to. And that's what it says right here in the last page is under the determination.
And-
And it's just a rule of professional conduct. This is what we're gonna be doing, so if something comes up in the future, you're already aware of it. And I know you are because you signed it, because we told you.
Okay. But, Mr. Chair,
Okay, we need a vote on that?
one other comment.
Oh, go ahead, Dan.
If all of the towns don't consent, then maybe they make a switch. Say the taxpayers a few bucks. That's how I see it. If we all just rubber stamp it, then it's status quo. Maybe the status quo isn't the way to go. So, I'm gonna oppose it.
Okay, we need a motion, we need a motion and a vote on it.
To sign on the form, yes.
Anybody else, we're ready for a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to recuse. As you know, I'm an employee of the Whittier Tech High School.
Okay. Jason? Make a motion?
No, not at this time. I'll table it till the next meeting.
Okay, motion to table. I'll second that. We'll vote on tabling till the next meeting. 3 in favor, 1 abstention, 1 absent. Next, fiscal year '24 budget discussion. And we have a paperwork, anybody had a chance to look it over and have any questions on it? I know they haven't met with the department heads, haven't met with the finance board yet, so we haven't got their recommendations. And I think there was, you had the last meeting, you had a schedule of when they were going to meet.
Yes, they are scheduled to meet this Wednesday.
Has anybody had a chance to look it over and got any questions? Dan? No?
Just want to stay within Prop 2.5. And everybody ought to be working towards that goal, you know? It's not a, the well runs dry. It's not a bottomless pit. And we need to take into consideration that people that are on fixed income, senior citizens and others that are struggling. So hope everybody acknowledges that.
So there was no, as part of the budget packet, there was no final assessment, as they're still finalizing their numbers. But based upon the operational deficit that they identify as part of the budget book of 1,678,346, with the calculation per our population and our percentage contribution, you're looking at $665,145. That is in addition to what we would have had to have placed on last year's assessment of a 3%, which has been our historic contribution.
I think the school needs to make some changes. They have structural defects, and they're growing at over 4% a year. And if they expect the taxpayers to pay this, it's not going to solve the problem next year and the year after. They have to make some serious decisions. They should look at cutting some electives. They should consolidate some classrooms, and they should raise some fees. But senior citizens pay enough in this town. And I don't know what they get, but they shouldn't keep paying for the schools more and more and more and accept crumbs. So I think it's a matter of equity, and I think the school district ought to, respect the taxpayers. We had a vote in May, and it was rejected. And here they are again, and they never quit. So we can't quit either, okay? But if anyone's gone by that school over there, they spare no expense. Call it the Taj Mahal. Take a look at the cars in that parking lot, okay? Kids don't go without, all right? I don't want senior citizens going without, okay? You want more for your kids, pay for more. But there's other people that live here. We have other services. We have police. We have fire. We have parks. We have recreation. And why is it that we can keep our budget within 2.5%, but the school district's running 4+, okay? They got all the bells and whistles over there. They spare no expense. So I think it's absolutely irresponsible of the school district. When we had a Prop 2.5 override in May, hasn't even been a year, and they're back at it again. Okay? So, tell them no. You need better management over, $46 million. Make it work. Okay? That's what they need to do.
I will say that when you do look at the 2.5% over the last year's assessment, it's still very difficult to make the budget balance.
Yeah, but people in the private sector, I don't know how many people get pay raises more than 2.5%. I know people in businesses that have failed over the last 3 years, and yet the government checks are made every week. So, the private sector makes a lot of sacrifices, all right? I'm not saying the public sector doesn't, but it just can't be economy up, taxes are up, economy down, taxes up. Where does it end? And is it fair that people that lived here all their lives, you got to put a for sale sign on their house so that a new family with children can move into town, and then you just drive up the cost perpetually? So, people got to take a hard look at these things, and where are your values at, and who do you care about? But I went to the meeting at the school committee. There was no discussion about the impact on the taxpayers, none whatsoever. I don't even know if they give it a thought, but they should. All right? So, no, they need to be more disciplined. They have Latin, they teach German. My daughter took marine biology. She's taking video production. Cut out some of the fluffing out of. Don't cut the elementary school teachers. Greg was here last week, said they weren't going to do that. Good to hear that. All right? But they got all the bells and whistles over there, all the accessories. Take a look at the cars in that parking lot over there. They're driving better cars than probably you and me. So I don't think they go without anything in this district. I think, if anything, they're spoiled. Maybe I'm wrong, not all of them. But they should stop asking senior citizens to put all of the bills and all the escalations over there. They need to manage their money better over there than they do, and they need to manage the classroom sizes and all the electives and all the sports programs and all the accessories, okay, without breaking the backs of senior citizens. And like I said, what do they get? They get the crumbs in this town, okay? It's not right.
Anybody else?
Yes. So I think if you had studied this problem for as many years as I have, you feel like Grandma Moses. Part of Groveland's problem dates back to the period of time in which we were between management here. And that was the time when the state offered us to use the ESSER funds, a $250,000 grant of ESSER funds to help fund the Pentucket budget that year. And so we were advised to say yes by the interim management, and we did say yes. And I know I called Senator Tarr's office to verify this money exists, it actually is going to happen, and I was assured yes. So we went to town meeting and we voted about what we thought was a balanced budget, based on receiving $250,000 of ESSER funds to the Pentucket School to lower our assessment. And then that was changed. Over the course of the summer, that was taken back. So now we owed Pentucket $250,000 that we didn't have. So we had a meeting, and again, we were in between our manager here and our finance director who had departed. And we were allowed to put up $100,000. So we went to a fall town meeting, we took $100,000 out of stabilization. We did not have it in our budget to give to them. So we took it out of reserves. I don't know how they dealt with the other amount, because it was just Merrimack and Groveland that were in this position. West Newbury had already paid their full share. So it shouldn't shock anybody that the following year we're further behind and then further behind. And on top of that, we face a trash contract that is rapidly escalating, retirement assessment rapidly escalating. We have union contracts that are going up more than 2%. I mean, we do try to hold the line, but there's a lot of pressure. So just pushing the school down isn't going to solve everything. I think we really have to be aware that this change in the state formula that was done without any information from us changed us from a 36% to a 39% in a pretty fast swoop. Now, to be fair, we do have about 39% of the students, so we're paying about our student share now, is what's happening. So one might nod your head and say, well, shouldn't we pay our student share? Yes, but not that quickly. We didn't start out that way in Pentucket, paying that full amount because of our ability to pay. The formula used to reflect our ability to pay, and it really doesn't right now. People set their budgets in Groveland, right? You set your home budget, and then suddenly you have to come up with additional money. I'm sure it's not just lying around. This is a really difficult year, and I think there's going to be very difficult decisions, and that's why we've been meeting with the school as often as possible, waiting to hear, hopefully from the state, that they will fully fund some of these things that they promised to fund when we fully regionalized. And I think we should go to the state because they told us they would give us a grant and then said, no, after town meeting had ended, after. And they know what that means to a town of our size. We have nowhere else to go. We've already set all the other budgets. So of course we're in the hole. And it gets worse each year. So I think there comes a point when we're going to have to look at this as a very fluid situation. We're going to have to keep our minds completely open because even if in Groveland we don't feel that it's justified to pay the assessment, understand that 2 out of 3 towns can pass that budget. So I know our finance board is working on this very diligently, on all the possible scenarios, on all the what-ifs, because we would be remiss if we didn't look at everything that can happen. I know our town administrator is losing sleep over this, honestly is, and I'm grateful that she cares that much. And I think that the members of the board, I hope at this table, feel the same way. I don't have an answer for you tonight. I just can say that this did not happen in one day. This has been building and becoming worse each year, and at some point, we have to address this.
Jason?
Yes, I know I reached out to Senator Tarr in regards to the seniors and talked about the senior tax breaker tax credit. And they had introduced legislation to increase that for the seniors to help soften the blows of the upcoming taxes increases. They did so, and it was not passed into law, but they did try again this year here, and it's currently in Senate docket 689 tax status. So the needed help for the seniors is actively being pursued, but it does take a lot of everybody else to step up and talk to the representatives and get them to start supporting some of these bills on a state level. I know I've also reached out to a couple other state reps in not our area, just to try to gain some traction, because we do need to help protect the seniors. As far as the school, I'm against increasing the fees that they charge for sports, because not everybody can afford them, which means not everybody's gonna have the opportunity to participate in these sports or gain the opportunities to get the scholarships that they need. I'm not for cutting electives for the same reason. A lot of the things that they do is because it prepares them for a college level education in a specific field. I know that when you brought up Latin, you questioned how many people are gonna, become doctors that need to have those Latin for the roots of what they actually mean. And there's a lot of veterinarians that have to go through all that as well. So I think it's very important that we support the schools, and we also support the people that we elected under the school committee, because that's a lot of what we elected them to do.
Well, I know the people in Groveland have always been very generous. They've supported public safety, they supported the schools, they supported a new school a few years back. But they don't want to be taken advantage of. And I feel bad for the senior citizens. Some of them may be just on Social Security and they can't afford increases. And, to say that they might have to put their house up for sale or move out of the town that they've lived in all their life, that's just wrong. But we gotta support the seniors, the elderly. People that are working they can work extra hours, they can earn the extra money, but these people that are on a fixed income, and there are a lot of people that are just on Social Security, they don't have a retirement. Some of them, when they were working, they might have had to use all of their resources to bring up a family, and they just, now that they're retired, they don't have like a 401k or an IRA. Some of them, when they were working, it didn't start until late. So I feel bad for these people, and I think we need to try to help our senior citizens out a little bit. But keeping within the confines of 2.5 is a good start. Anybody else? No. We'll put this on the agenda, the budget discussion. Hopefully we can have some answers back from the finance board for the next meeting on what they're gonna recommend. Okay. Moving on. Town administrator time. Rebecca, you want?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a couple of items. First, I wanted to make a clarification from the last meeting. I did in fact misspeak. The official town seal is not a building in Raleigh. It is the Second Academy, which is a historic school, and then it became the town hall, and it was located on King Street until it burned down in 1901, and it was moved over to School Street. I was very fortunate to have a nice long conversation with Claire Walsh, and she provided me a copy of the outline of Groveland history, which was very informative, and I'm very appreciative of having been provided the opportunity to explore a little bit more, and I invite anybody who is interested in learning more about this particular publication to reach out to Claire, and she'd be happy to assist. I also wanted to confirm that there are no agendas and/or minutes that have the logo used anywhere on the document. All include the official seal or nothing at all. That has been the protocol all along and will continue to be the protocol. On happier notes, I would like to report that the Moody's rating was increased from an AA3 to an AA2. So we are very excited about that, and we are moving in the right direction to secure our financial position. I also wanted to let you all know that you will now be seeing some blue textile recycling bins around town. As many of you know, November 2022, Mass DEP added textiles to the list of banned materials from disposal. So essentially, their argument is that virtually any textile can be reused, repurposed, or recycled. So we have partnered with CMRK on this effort. So you can find those bins located at 23 School Street in the municipal lot, over at the Bagnell School in the upper lot, and then finally over at Washington Park on the opposite side of where the playgrounds are. So we're very excited about that effort, and we will continue to work with our partners to make sure that we are recycling and removing things from the waste stream. Lastly, on that note, we had received a recycling dividends program grant. It was a small amount. It was only about $1,200. However, we were able to reinvest that into our efforts and our recycling efforts, and we have purchased home composting kits. So there's been a lot of different support in trying to get companies to come in and work with us on our composting, but a lot of those efforts cost additional money. So this was a way to explore another option and allow residents to take advantage of composting opportunities. So those should be delivered shortly, and they will be available to residents at no charge. We will have more information to offer and share with everyone once those are received. And then lastly, I just wanted to remind the board, obviously, that we have the public hearing tomorrow. The school committee is having their public hearing tomorrow at 6 p.m. at the middle high school, and they will be hearing their proposed budget.
That's it?
Yes.
Selectmen's time and reports. Dan, do you have anything?
A resident asked me if we could at some point put on the agenda, just a topic of business development to help with our revenue situation. So I think there's a committee on the Center Street maybe, so we get an update on that, or, I mean, what can we do to
So what is it? Sorry.
get more business in town, or, or just, what can we do to, lease out some of the land maybe that's down on Center Street, maybe some frontage there, or sell some lots. But what can we do to help defray the cost of these tax escalations and what may be imposed upon us by 2 out of 3 towns within our school district? So
we don't have any committees as of right now, but from an economic development standpoint, I've been working closely with the town planner, which is one of the reasons that we have that position in place to try and explore these different economic development opportunities that will represent the characteristic of the community and are supported by the community, whether that be through the comprehensive master plan or other planning initiatives that we have started over the last 4 years or so. So there's no specific committee, but we did receive $191,000 from the state, specifically with Mass Development, for a site readiness grant over at 150 Center Street specifically, to take a look at that parcel in relation to some of the other parcels in that surrounding area. And we will be doing a more detailed analysis, and that will include a very robust engagement effort with the residents to see exactly what they would like to see there, if they would like to see anything, and really kind of identify what it is that we're looking for. So we do have efforts that have been initiated, but it wouldn't hurt maybe to tap into the master plan committee and see whether or not they wanted to further vet out the economic development side of things. Or I know we've been working with the Elm Square committee and making that more of a business-oriented type of committee and not necessarily just focused to Elm Square. So I would be happy to explore that more with Mr. Dempsey, as that was something that was one of the goals that we had reported out from that committee way back when. So it's definitely things that we should continue to consider for sure, but no specific committee that would, or that's been created, that, to my knowledge, specifically for business development.
well, I think
Want to put it on the agenda for,
I'd like to, and the resident can come in and maybe speak, and anyone else interested, but, I think we should have a plan and maybe a timeline. Since I've been in town, there doesn't seem to be any sense of urgency on this issue. It's just kind of kick the can, and I don't know what the plan is. I don't know if there's any
we could,
plan.
try to get that on the next, We have a full vote in the next meeting.
So the next meeting, we do have the CPC articles that are being presented, so that will take up a good chunk of
How
time.
about if we put it out a month, Dan?
Sure.
Jason, you have anything?
No, not today.
Kathy, do you have anything?
Yes, I think we did have master plan meetings, Dan, where people, residents came in and they did look at the land and the use of land. I think a lot of people were interested, and I think that eventually that will come to some fruition, I would hope. But in the immediate need of where we are now, in my mind, the most immediate way to do something about our predicament is to contact our state senator and representative and remind them that we were given a grant of $250,000 and we balanced our town budget, and then it disappeared. And that started that was the biggest problem that started our problem here, because if we had dealt with that $250,000 that we didn't have in that particular school year, we wouldn't be so far apart at this point. So if you could appreciate, as each year it got worse and worse. And last year, the school was able to balance with the cuts. Obviously, they can cut if that's what 2 out of 3 towns say. But I think that as a member of the Board of Selectmen, we're charged with looking at all the possibilities, not just one path. And we need to keep our eyes open and be aware of what the possibilities are. And I think if this board doesn't get together as a board and go to our state officials as an entity and say, we all would like to see this addressed, that the town was allowed this use and then this was taken away, which unbalanced our budget. 2 years ago, we bailed ourselves out from reserves. We didn't have the money. It's not a surprise that we're behind now and still behind. So some type of mechanism that would help us at least close half the gap, get us partway there and let us catch up, because new growth revenue doesn't roll in like that. Doesn't roll in $300,000. You may feel like the town's growing, and it is, but the new growth revenue doesn't come in like that. There's delays in it appearing, and it's not appearing in this year's revenue stream. So it's not available to us to use yet towards these increased costs that we're facing. And our town employees, they get almost no increase. If you're non-union, almost none. It's tight. It's the tightest I've seen in a long time.
Okay, thank you. I only got one thing. It was a week ago, Sunday, I attended a service of some sort at the Congregational Church for the 4 chaplains that died around World War II. They were all on the same naval vessel, and it was interesting to hear some of the history. And there's nothing wrong with trying to learn something, but it was very well done. It was sponsored by the American Legion. They did a great job, lasted about an hour, and it was a shame that we couldn't get it on the TV, but didn't happen. But it was, hopefully they'll do it again in another year. I guess they do it in the area, but it was a great service, great ceremony. Next, older unfinished business. I don't think we have anything there. Do we? No. Other items not reasonably anticipated at the time of posting. Nothing. Correspondence, we didn't have anything. Next, adjournment. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn at 7:40 PM.
Motion to adjourn, a second.
Seconded.
A second. All in favor of adjournment? 4 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you.